What's up, guys, and welcome back to another video for Scourge of War, Jours. Just a quick Grog toolbar update since the last time I put up a video, which was episode 1, Hessian Fury. So that was a test version of the Grog toolbar. It was like the second test version to test out some of the changes that Reb Bugler made to make it work, to make the Grog toolbar work with the Austrian, Wurttemberg, Hessian side. Um, and I've been kind of testing it ever since. And I couldn't find any issues with it. It seems to be working perfectly. As far as I know, nobody else really found any issues with it either. Just yesterday, Reb Bugler released the official Grog toolbar update. It's number 8.3. Um, and he made a couple of changes to it graphically at higher resolutions. That some of the text appears bigger, a little more bolder in the toolbar itself. I'm playing at the maximum resolution, so you'll be able to see that some of the type is just a little bigger, a little more bolder. And he also tweaked the Austrian battalion mass formation, which I guess was sort of the Austrian kind of square formation. It was more of like a big block, but he made it look a little bit more like a square. My guess behind the reasoning for that is that using the Grog toolbar, our column by division formation, especially if you use the really tight compact one, the close interval, kind of already looks like that. It's already just a big block of troops, just they're all facing the same way, as opposed to the battalion mass formation, which is kind of like just a block that's a square with the troops kind of facing all the way around. Um, so I guess maybe to help the player tell the difference between a battalion mass and a column by division formation, he opened it up a little bit in the center so that it looks kind of a little bit more like a square. It doesn't look like a square like our square formation normally does. It's definitely a little bit different, a little more denser, a little bit more kind of rectangular even, but just it has a little space in the middle just to help differentiate the fact that it's kind of a square formation and not a column by division formation. Because if they were all just a block like that, you would have to actually zoom in and look at that unit pretty close to see the difference. That in a column by division formation, the troops are all facing forward, and in the battalion mass, they're kind of all around facing like in a square. So this way, at a glance, you can see that there's a little space in the center so that it looks more like a square formation. Um, but as far as I know, those are kind of the only real changes he made, and that's just a graphical change. It doesn't change the way the formation works, I'm assuming, but it just helps the player better recognize a battalion mass versus a column by division. I think that was the aim behind that. So if we again take a look at the modifications, you can see again, I have taken the Grog toolbar, put a Z in front of it, so it's prioritized below Les Jours. Reb did not specify that this has to happen with the newest version of the toolbar, but I'm assuming it still does. Since the last test Grog toolbar had to be that way, and he didn't say that it didn't have to be that way, so I'm assuming it still has to be prioritized below Les Jours. So I again put my Z in front of it and just have them both checked. And yeah, I will again. I'll put a link to the official Grog toolbar thread in the description for this video, so you guys will be able to go and again get the latest Grog toolbar. And that was released just yesterday. But Reb always keeps the first page, the first post in the Grog toolbar thread updated with the newest toolbar. So when you guys download it, it'll be this one. So all right. So that's all you need to do is check those two, and then back we go. All right. So today we are going to be taking a look at Blood Along the Souffel. Now, you guys might remember that this was the scenario I chose to play the very first time we took a look at this expansion, this mod. I'm sorry, for Les Jours. and in that playthrough, that was kind of where we discovered that there was a problem with the Austrian and the Wurttemberg troops. They wouldn't fire. Their line units wouldn't fire. Uh, so even though I've already done a playthrough of this, wasn't really much of a playthrough because the Austrians wouldn't shoot back. So it really wasn't much of a fight. So I wanted to do the scenario again, and it comes up second since it's a division scenario. The first one was a brigade scenario. Here we got a division. The rest of them are either corps or full battle scenario. So the time is here to again take a look at this scenario. Now I haven't actually played the scenario since that video because I didn't want to kind of spoil it because I already had my idea for how we were going to defend this position, and I didn't want to go and look ahead and see how it would hold up under the Austrians actually fighting back. So what I'm going to do here is basically set up the same defense that I set up in the first video I did, but this time we're going to get to see what would happen, if the Austrians actually fight back. So again, the scenario is an hour and a half long. We command the French 15th Division. It's 3 p.m., June 28th, 1815. The situation is general. The enemy is marching towards Strasbourg and has forced us to retreat constantly for the last few days. But now we need to defend the line of Souffel. Your division has to keep the central section of our front. The forces under your command are few, but their morale is high. Use the ground to your advantage. The Austrians must feel again the fear of French bayonets. And our mission is to hold the line of the Souffel River. And again, we have the 15th Division commanded by Henry Rottenborg. We have Gudin and Furion's brigades, along with an 8-gun artillery battery. So as we scroll down here, you can see we need 3,000 points for a major victory. That was obviously very easy to get the last time because the Austrians didn't fight back. So we're going to get to see what happens now that the Austrians have been fixed and they are ready to unload their muskets on us as well. All right, so here we go. Here is our division commander, General Baron Henry Rottenborg. And here comes our courier. And we have just about 5,000 men under our command. All right, and it says, General Rottenborg, our outposts have reported a strong enemy column marching along the main road to Strasbourg. Their objective appears to be the stone bridge, which is still intact in order to split our front line in two. Move the brigade of Furion from its current position to the stone bridge area to defend the bridge. Bon chance, General, and that is from Lieutenant General Rapp Jean, Commandant of the Army du Rhine, which I guess means the Army of the Rhine. It's really a corps. We have two or three divisions here. I think two. So here comes Furion, our brigade commander, and we're just going to halt him in place right here because he actually doesn't need to be going as far as he's going. And we're again going to split the brigade like we did the first time. Send half of it over to the stone bridge and half of it to maintain this area around Souffelweyersheim. Weiserheim. I know I can't pronounce that. So here we have Chef de Battalion Garson, who is commanding two of the battalions. And we're just going to plop him over here by the stone bridge with enough men to cover the objective. And we'll just use road movement. And we'll head back to the Souffel. I'm just going to call it Souffel because if I try and pronounce it, I'm just going to sound like an idiot through this whole video because my French has got awful. So the next thing we're going to do here is look for our second brigade here, which is Gudin's brigade, who is not under the command of Gudin. I don't know where Gudin is. Oh yeah, it is Gudin. It's okay. He just has. I was looking at his last name. You know these French names. Pierre Zizar Gudin de Bardilliere. I can't even pronounce that. But we're going to bring him over by the town of Souffel here. Even though I know Souffel is technically a river, but we'll call it just Souffel Town, so I don't have to sound like I don't know what I'm saying. And here come the two battalions that we are sending over to the stone bridge. And we're going to bring the division commander, I think, right up by the, because we know now that there's going to be an objective here. That kind of caught me by surprise the first time, but it will appear here now. And we'll just bring the division commander right up in this area to cover it. And we're going to bring Fririon, and we're going to put him in the left salient here, as we're going to put most of his brigade kind of in this salient, and we'll use Gudin for the right salient. And again, I'm just kind of basically set up a very similar, as best I can remember it. I didn't actually go and study move for move what I did in the first video, but basically I'm trying the same approach that I tried in the first video. So I'm moving Frierion's brigade, or half of it anyway, the other half is going to the stone bridge, over to the left salient, and as Gudin's brigade comes closer, we'll start to separate his units off to fill in the right salient. And I'm just bringing the supply wagon up to kind of a central position until I figure out, where I want to place them. Even though I'm sure I'm just going to be running them all over the field once the fighting gets started. Now here I'm kind of wondering what to do with the guns. I think I forgot where I placed them, but I kind of think I placed them somewhere around here. I'm just looking for, something where I'm not behind a hill or something, where I have a field of fire. And we can always move them a little bit if we need to as the situation develops. So here come the guns. That's a little close to the town. Maybe we'll just move them forward and angle them a little bit. Yeah, something more like that. And we can see Garson with his two battalions moving off towards the stone bridge. Our supply wagon is on its way. Here comes our division commander. And our cannon are moving into position. So, all right, let's start kicking off our skirmishers here. And again, we're just going to line the riverbank with 100-man skirmisher groups. These skirmishers have a lot of things going for them. They're in the woods. They're skirmisher units to begin with. They're on the opposite side of a riverbank. Doesn't get much better than that for skirmishers. This is kind of like, just dream terrain for skirmishers. It doesn't get any better. Heavy woods, opposite side of a river, very hard to get to them, and skirmishers are just deadly. Love them. So we're going to split this entire battalion into skirmishers, and we do have the other battalion of Frierion's brigade kind of moving into this area, and they will kind of form up in line and become the muscle should we need a more dense formation if the Austrians try to charge across the river or break some skirmisher units or whatever. It's just always good to have a full line battalion on hand to deal with a situation like that. So here we go, just lining the riverbank with French skirmishers here. And that will do it for the skirmisher units. We're down to 130 men, so we can't split off anymore. So we will actually form the remaining troops, 130 men. We will put them in skirmish formation and send them on the far left here. And we'll move the line unit up to take a more central position. So I'm just placing these units, this unit here, a little further away because as a line unit in skirmish formation, they take up a little bit more space. And here comes the last of Garson's battalions moving through the town as they head for the stone bridge. Now, because after having played the scenario once already, and we know that the stone bridge doesn't get approached by anything. It's just an objective for us to hold. I'm not going to go through the bother of setting up a skirmish line and deploying troops and whatnot in like I did in the first video by the stone bridge because nobody's coming. But I didn't know that on the first playthrough of it, so I set up a whole skirmisher line over there as well, and then nothing ever happened. So I'm not going to bother doing that this time around. I'm just going to send the troops over there to cover the objective, and they don't actually need to be deployed in any kind of defensive formation, because we already know that no enemy troops are going to approach that position. So we're just moving the line battalion up to kind of a more central position here within the salient where they can speedily offer any help. And we are moving Fririon up to a more central position because by putting him kind of right in here, he can give the commander bonuses to kind of all those skirmisher units, which will give them better morale, better combat ability, so forth. So you always want to stack as many bonuses as you can, and we have a lot going on there. By also bringing the line unit closer, we can give the support bonus. So one thing I just realized is that we only need 600 men to cover this this objective by the stone bridge, and just one of those units almost does it. It's like 530 men. So we don't actually need to send 2 full battalions to cover that objective. So what I'm going to do is just send 1 battalion, and then to make up the difference to get to 600 men, I'm going to split off a skirmisher unit. That'll put it at 630 men total. Send the skirmisher unit to the stone bridge. We get to keep the rest of this battalion over here. So a little different than what I did in the first video, but in the first video I did not know this stone bridge was not going to be approached at all. So I sent half the brigade over there because I thought I was actually going to have to defend the position. Now we know that that's not the case, that nobody approaches the bridge, and we just need to send the right amount of men there to actually cover the objective to get points from it. So that's only 600 men. So sending over 1,000 men there would be kind of a waste because we have 430 men here in this battalion that we can keep over here now, and we have another basically almost 85% full strength battalion. So we're going to keep them over here and just send a 100-man skirmisher unit with that other full-size battalion, and that'll put us over the 600-man mark that we need for that objective. So as you can see, we haven't done anything with the right salient yet. We've moved all of Fririon's remaining troops into the left salient. However, we're going to fill that out once Gudin's brigade gets over here. And this extra battalion now that I've saved from having to go over the stone bridge, we're just going to put them in a more central position for now until I see where they're going to be needed. All right, so here comes Gudin. He's got 5 battalions. And as he works his way over here, we'll begin separating them into, we'll deploy 1 unit here with skirmisher units to cover this blown stone bridge area along the road. We'll take 2 units to cover the town because we know an objective is going to appear here, and we'll take the other 2 and we'll use them to make up our right salient defense. And I'm just moving the supply wagon over by the battery. Just get it out of the way. Oh, maybe it's just Souffelweyersheim. Souffelweyersheim. If anybody knows how to actually pronounce the name of this town, feel free to post it in the comments. I'd love to know because I know I'm getting it wrong. Souffelweyersheim? So you can see off the left side of the screen there, Gudin's brigade is working its way. This is our corps commander, General Rapp. It is the 5th Corps. And here's our artillery reserve. We do not have command of these troops, which is unfortunate because I would love to have 2 extra batteries. I would really have fun with that, but dare I say the Austrians would not have a chance if I had command of those batteries. All right, so we'll begin by moving the 3rd Battalion of the 39th Line into the right salient there, and we will take the 2nd Battalion of the 39th Line and deploy them back here by the blown stowed bridge, and we'll kick out skirmishers in front and to both sides in case any units try to come down the side road. The last time we played, that didn't happen. We kind of intercepted the troops that were coming this way, but you just never know. And this is still our extreme right flank. If you can get across this, it leads around to our rear. I just can't leave this completely undefended. We'll see how things develop. If it doesn't get attacked, then maybe I'll shift these troops back over where they're more needed. But this is the route to our rear. I can't leave it undefended. So again, we're gonna just 1 battalion. We're just gonna deploy some skirmish units on the opposite bank here to intercept any enemy troops that might come down this road. And we have skirmish units right in front of the blown bridge, as well as on either side of it. So we have a good convex field of fire in here. All right, so we're going to send the 1st Battalion of the 40th Line, and we're going to send them into the salient as well, put them in line. That'll be our muscle battalion. We'll also send Gudin in there too, so he can do the same thing as Furion and give his skirmisher units the commander bonus once we get them kicked out. And the remaining 2 battalions we will send to occupy the Souffelweyersheim town. So when the objective appears there, we'll begin getting points from that. We already have Wurttemberg, our division commander, in place there. So we'll have the number of men and the objective occupied. So we'll put 1 in front of the town and kind of 1 in it in this little corridor right here. It's a good place to deploy in line. Later on, I'll kick out a couple of skirmisher units from this rear line here, just to actually put them in the building that we can garrison. In case the Austrians actually break through all this and actually come within range of the town, we'll at least have some skirmisher units inside the actual buildings to shoot at them. So this extra battalion of Furions here that we were able to keep from going over the stone bridge because it just wasn't necessary. I'm just deploying them so kind of right in the center, so whichever salient gets pressed harder, that's pretty much the one I'll send them to. That was kind of my plan. I'll just keep them centralized for now and see which salient needs more help. And I'm thinking I just want to edge the guns just a little further forward here. Just to really cover this little inland peninsula here and really discourage any enemy troops from trying to come in there. All right, so we're just going to inch this battalion up a little closer before we kick out the skirmishers so they don't have that far to run. And we'll bring our line battalion unit up a little closer as well. So we have our defense of the blown bridge set up there. That looks pretty good. Nice convex field of fire. We have a battalion behind. Not much muscle, but a little bit. And it looks like we have another courier on our way. So you can see the objective has appeared. We don't have enough troops in range to occupy it just yet, but they'll be there shortly. All right, so let's kick out these skirmishers. And again, I always wait until they start moving to take command of them so the toolbar flips properly. I covered that way back in episode 2, The Emperor's Plan of the main series. One of the hitches with the Grog toolbar is you have to wait for it to do that. But it's a very small hitch once you know about it. I'm so used to it, I don't even think about it. So again, just like the last time, we're lining the riverbank with skirmishers in the woods, opposite bank of a river, dream terrain for skirmishers. And I'm just fine-tuning the placement a little bit to cover as much of a front as I possibly can. And we will place them on the far left. We're down to 110 men now. No more skirmisher units, so we'll take command of the battalion, put them in skirmish formation, and because line battalion skirmish formation covers a wider front, we will cover the right side of the bank that the road passes by with this whole battalion. And now that they're out of the way, we can move our line battalion up to a more centralized position. And it says, General Wurttemberg, a second and more dangerous enemy column took Reichstett and now is marching against our right flank. Keep only minimal troops to cover the stone bridge and use the rest to hold the town of Souffelweyersheim at all costs. And that's about my 10th attempt now at trying to pronounce that town, with 10 different variations. So, all right, we have our line battalion. I'm just going to back them off so they're not standing in the hedgerows like that. And we now have the objective occupied. So both objectives, well, we don't quite have the stone bridge one occupied, but the skirmishers are nearly there. So we'll just put them right in front of the bridge, and we'll just set the line battalion up in line behind them, and that's pretty much all I'm going to do as far as this area is concerned, because we know it doesn't get approached. It's just an objective for us to hold. It's just a free source of points. And that'll do it for the Stone Bridge area. So, okay. Back at Souffelweyersheim here, and we can see some Austrian artillery on the advance. So right now it looks like the right salient is going to be the first one hit. So I'm going to take the extra battalion we have from Fririon and send them over there. So as they come into view here, we can see more and more of the Austrian columns approaching. But we're all set here now. We're ready to meet them. I'm just going to inch the officer just a little bit further forward here, so when we see the stars appear above these little green icons here, you'll see a star appear. That's how we know we're getting the commander bonus, just like that. So now we're giving the commander bonus to these units. How's everything look here? Good field of fire. Definitely be able to shoot into that area there. All right, we're all set. Bring it on, Austrians. As you can see, this battalion that we deployed in skirmish formation actually covers a pretty big front, so that's why I placed them on the right here. And here they come. So in the first video I did of this, I thought these troops were Hessians because they kind of have the same shade of uniform. Mitra told me those are actually troops from Wurttemberg troops. So the ones in white, I guess, are Austrian, and these guys here are Wurttemberg troops. The Hessians are over on another part of the battlefield, and they have 2 brigades, so they have this 1 division of Hessian forces, and they're not in this battle, or not in this scenario. So these are Austrian and Wurttemberg troops. All right, so we're all set here. So this is basically very, very close to the same setup I had in the first video, with the exception of the fact that I'm not bothering to really cover the stone bridge in any kind of meaningful way because now I know it's not going to be threatened. So we were able to keep kind of an extra battalion over in this area. So you can see our cannon unlimbering, and that opens the ball, so to speak. So we can see the Austrian artillery advancing. This must be the Wurttemberg artillery on the right. On their right, our left. So now I'm just going to kick out some skirmish units. We have a 300-man capacity, so we can put 3 skirmish units actually in this building. In case this whole thing gets broken through, we can kind of set up a secondary defense line around this building here, and kind of withdraw our lines to the right and left of it. And this can be a kind of a strong central position. So I have a little trouble at first actually getting all of these skirmisher units into the building. Takes a little finagling to actually get them all in there. You can see we've only got 1 in there at the moment. The rest of them are just kind of standing around, kind of crisscrossing the buildings. So I just have to grab the offending units and actually get them into the building. Which is a little tricky when you can't see them. So here they come. Now the first thing I notice is this Austrian cannon is a little close. Luckily, these skirmishers that we have in our forward position, well, for one thing, they're skirmish units, and they just don't take damage from artillery the way normal units do. And they've also in heavy wood, so they're getting a defensive terrain bonus. So, okay, here's another unit. And we need to somehow get them into the fort here. So we want to what we want to do is when we click on the fort, we want to see 3 skirmisher units in there. Right now we only have 2. So we kind of have to find a way to click on the skirmisher unit and get them in. All the while, these Austrians and Wurttemberg troops are approaching, and I'm worried about a 100-man skirmisher unit getting into that building. And they still have not gotten in there. Come on, you bums. I think I finally got a hold of them here. And let's try and click right in the building here and see if we can get them. Okay, there they go. Get in there, boys. And we can hear that our skirmisher units have opened fire. And as you can see, one of these Austrian cannon has come very, very close, certainly within canister range. So I am trying to shoot them with my skirmisher units and force them to withdraw before they can do a lot of damage. Now, skirmisher units don't get destroyed by canister fire the way columns or line units will. All right, so we're good. We got all 3 units in there. But canister is a guaranteed hit every time they fire, so we definitely don't want that battery, or that one gun to stay there for long and start picking our skirmisher unit apart. So we're just gonna see if we can start shooting at them right away. As you can see, that is our primary target. We are targeting the that one lone gun that has advanced very close. And we can see the Austrians deploying into line, which is similar to what happened last time. But let us see if they now shoot back at us. So you can see some smoke coming from the Austrian line. They are indeed firing at us. And this gun has unlimbered. That's not good. Any minute they're going to switch to canister and let rip. And here come the Wurttemberg troops. So we've already dropped 3 artillerymen. And there it goes. There goes the canister fire. Immediately 4 losses. So yeah, not as huge as you'd get with like a line unit where it'd be like 30 losses, but it's still a guaranteed hit every time they fire. So we want to keep shooting at these boys before they really rip the skirmisher unit up, and see if we can make that gun withdraw, or hopefully one of these line units will deploy in front of them and block their field of fire so they can't do that. They just hit us again, dropped another 3 men. So it's not that canister does a really huge amount of damage to skirmisher units. It's just simply that it's a guaranteed hit every time. So as you can see, we are now engaged in a firefight with the Austrian units. The Wurttemberg troops are deploying skirmishers. So now the skirmishers have opened up on us. That Austrian gun is continuing to let loose canister into our skirmisher unit. Got to get them out of there. Luckily, artillery is pretty skittish when they come under fire from small arms. Once they start losing artillerymen, a lot of times they won't stand there for long. So it's a test of wills here. And with every canister shot there, they're slowly depleting the skirmisher unit. But I'm not pulling them back. I want to get that gun out of there. I want to, shoot enough men so that that gun withdraws. That was a very aggressive move by the Austrians to put a gun that far forward. So as you can see, the gun is beginning to move off. We're now tangling with a Wurttemberg line unit. And here comes some more Wurttemberg troops. And our guns have done nothing yet. Probably have to wait till they get a little closer. So we've already lost 16 men from our forwardmost skirmisher unit here, courtesy of that Austrian gun, which is still hanging around out there. They have lost a few more men. As you can see, there's a body on the ground right there, but they are unlimbered again. And as long as they're there, they're dangerous. So the rest of our skirmisher units are doing pretty good. They're picking away at the Austrians and Wurttemberg troops as they approach. Alright, so now that gun is pulling back, it looks like, out of canister range. Good riddance. Looks like they're heading back to their... No, they're still out there. Nope, they're going. Good. Get out of here. So we can see another Austrian brigade approaching on the right. We have our skirmishers deployed to kind of shoot them as they either approach or pass by us. As you can see, our skirmisher units are taking much more losses than they did in the first playthrough, courtesy of the fact that the Austrian and Wurttemberg troops are now able to shoot. But nevertheless, this is still dream terrain for skirmishers. Especially now that the gun has pulled back, we're now shooting at line units. We should be able to start pulling ahead. So our forward skirmish units in the left salient have just started to open up here. And we can see the Wurttemberg troops wheeling to face them. So now we got a fierce little firefight going on between our skirmisher units on our side of the river and the Wurttemberg line units on the opposite side. So this is similar to what happened the last time. Hopefully we can intercept this brigade and actually get them to fight up here rather than approach that blown bridge area like we did last time. So our 3rd Battalion of the 39th Line has opened up now. And yeah, a bloody fight. Not all our skirmisher units are getting the best of it. There are a lot of troops in front of us here. So these guys might be just repositioning. They might be charging up a volley shot. So, okay, here we have the methamphetamine battalion. These guys are really tweaking out on us. Some kind of graphical hiccup here. These guys all look like they're on speed. However, tweaking or not, as they move through this river area here, they're really going to get picked out on by these skirmisher units. So yeah, kind of a brutal fight going on here with our forward skirmisher units. This one's doing pretty good. They've taken 5 losses. This one's in a bloody fight. They're doing pretty good though. Oh boy, so yet another Austrian brigade approaching our leftmost salient. Looks like 4 battalions. So we've got about 640 points now. Most of that is from the objectives. About 100 casualties total between both sides so far. So as you can see, this is a big 4 battalion brigade approaching us. So it looks like we're being bypassed on the right here, and they're at least a couple of battalions are making for the blown bridge area that we're defending back there. So we are continuing to shoot at these guys. So I'm going to bring some muscle up here because this unit's getting awful close and I'm not sure what their intentions are. So we're going to get a line unit up here to shore up this right portion here of the line. So these guys have been hit by a couple of artillery shots. Nothing big, they've lost 5 men. So we're really picking on these guys as they try and push through this. You can see some dead bodies on the ground here as these guys have tried to push through. They're still tweaking on whatever drugs they're on. And we can see the head of that Austrian column approaching, and we have open fire on them. Here they come. So the lead unit has formed line. And as you can see, against line units, our skirmishers are doing excellent. Where it gets hairy is when the enemy kicks out skirmisher units and moves them into the woods and on their side of the riverbank. Then it's kind of an even firefight. In terms of they basically are getting all the same bonuses and defenses that we are. So as you can see, this unit here has crossed, or kind of crossed the river and deployed into line. So we're going to need to kind of maybe pull these guys back, set up in here to face these guys. And maybe we'll bring the line unit up behind them to add some massed fire to the situation. So yeah, this skirmisher unit is going to screen this battalion, and we're going to also turn these guys to face them. And we'll see if we can really pluck away at these guys. So, as you can see, the Austrians have now deployed some skirmisher units on the far side of the river. And we've got ourselves a nasty little firefight brewing over here as well, too. So over here, we're really ripping into this Wurttemberg unit pretty good, because it's just skirmishers and they're just a line unit. They haven't deployed any skirmishers. So there we'll do really good. It's when they deploy skirmish units that firefight becomes a lot more even. So all right, we're starting to drop these guys good now. Such as over here, where you can see this skirmish unit has taken a lot more losses because they're tangling not only with line units, but the skirmishers out there as well. So as you can see, a line unit has approached very close to our skirmish line back here. We're opening up on them. Now this is a good convex field of fire. We're kind of firing into their flank with this leftmost skirmish unit. You can see men dropping right away. They're kind of, they deployed far enough back that it's kind of still in the sweet spot for skirmishers, which is about, like I said before, about 80 to 100 yards. That's kind of the sweet spot for skirmishers. Here we're a little closer, but we have the defensive terrain bonus because we're in the heavy woods. So this line unit is pulling back as some skirmisher units are advancing into the front here. So most of our skirmish units are doing pretty good over here. So, all right, yeah, putting this line unit behind the skirmisher unit, they are really starting to rip into this line battalion. They've dropped 25 men already. So these guys, the enemy has pretty much passed them by at this point. So we're going to spin them to actually join, to face this unit more and have more an effect on shooting on this unit. Because there's really nobody out here to screen anymore. Maybe we'll just inch them forward a little bit. So these guys are continuing to drop a ton of Austrians. They're not taking any losses themselves because they're being screened by skirmishers. As I once said, having skirmishers in front of your line units is akin to the Starship Enterprise putting up its shields, in that they screen all the incoming fire so that the line unit behind them doesn't really take any losses, or will take very few losses, but the line unit can still fire. Our friendly line unit can still fire through the skirmishers because skirmishers don't block line of sight. So I'm just advancing my guns a little bit because I don't think these Wurttemberg troops are going to move any further forward, and our battery still hasn't scored any points. So I think we just need to inch them closer to make them more effective against that Wurttemberg line kind of in that peninsula there. So we're just going to inch the guns forward a little bit. So as you can see, we're really dropping a lot of the right flank of this Austrian battalion here. A lot of bodies on the ground. We've dropped 40 men. We haven't taken any losses at all because we have our skirmisher unit screening. So, all right, this unit is pulling back. I don't think they're routed, but they're definitely retreating. And we're engaged with a second unit here across the river. God, having this river here is so good. We could never hold this position without it. Because you can see the one Austrian unit that has attempted to cross the river here, they're really getting punished severely for it. So okay, now we're going to advance the skirmisher unit a little bit, keep them in the woods so we can keep the bonus, but we'll screen the right side of this battalion as well as bring more fire on this unit that has kind of made it across the river here. And over here, we're in a little firefight. See, the Austrians have deployed a number of skirmisher units. There's one over here. Here comes another one. So now some of these line units are being screened by their skirmishers, which has the same effect for them as it does for us. That line unit will be kind of protected now. But they have now kind of spun and put themselves in front of their skirmisher units. So our cannon have inched forward a little bit, and we'll give them a little while to find their range. Hopefully they're close enough now to begin inflicting some losses on that Wurttemberg unit in the peninsula. All right, so the 2nd battalion is withdrawing as well, but the 1st one has regrouped and is ready to come at us again. So I'm going to kick off another skirmish unit here and send them off to the right because it looks like these guys are not routed either, so it looks like they're just, by virtue of the way they've been withdrawing, that they're kind of extending further to the right here. So I'm going to kick off another skirmish unit and extend our right as well. And they are deploying into line again. We have a new skirmisher unit moving into position to meet them. Thank God this river is here. So we continue to decimate this Austrian battalion over here. Most of their right flank has been really shot to pieces over here. So now the Austrians have some skirmishers out front, screening their line battalions. We're still plucking away at this Wurttemberg unit. And our guns have still not scored any points yet. No Medal of Honor for you boys. Alright, so we got our supply wagon over here. We're going to make a little run around the skirmisher units here and just resupply them. They have been shooting it out for a while now. So, alright, here we are engaged. We're with this line unit across the river. Just started getting going here. We've got 2 skirmisher units engaged with them. And these guys are resting. I'm actually going to recall them so that I can send another skirmisher unit off to the right. So you'll notice when I do that, the skirmisher units just disappeared because I had recalled them. As I've said before, when you recall a skirmisher unit, they're technically considered a part of the parent unit as soon as you hit that recall button. So if you do something like split off another skirmisher group, they just disappear because you're making another change. You know, had I not done anything with the unit, then you would have actually seen the sprites walk all the way back, but since they get added to the battalion as soon as you hit the recall button, you're able to split off skirmishers right away again too. So alright, that Austrian battalion has withdrawn. We have shot a lot of them up. We can reclaim the front and give these boys a hand because there's a lot of skirmisher units out there shooting at them, and this unit right here by far has taken the brunt. And we can reposition this unit to again screen our right. Not that there's anything out there, but just a good place to have them. So I'm again sending yet another skirmisher unit out on our right, just to make sure I have plenty of skirmisher units lining the bank of the river. So if the Austrians continue to move off to the right, we'll be there to meet them. And I can do that no matter, you know, kind of back and forth, no matter which direction the Austrians decide to go. Because even if they, you know, their goal is to get across the river, and that takes a really long time to cross the river. It really slows down their movement. So I should be able to kind of shoot and jive my skirmisher units back and forth to wherever they're needed to meet the threat. So, alright, we've reclaimed the front here. And I'm just going to move this line unit up behind the skirmisher unit here. Just in case I need to support them with, you know, line fire. Kind of the same way this line unit here is supporting their skirmisher unit. I'm kind of going to do the same thing with my line unit. And we're making our little supply wagon run here to resupply all our skirmisher units. This unit has been in quite a fight. They're down to 64 men. They're hanging in there. They're hanging in there. But they're out of ammo, so we're going to quickly resupply them. These guys are resupplied. Let's get over here to these boys who have no ammo. They have shot out all their ammunition. So here you see the officer moving into range to give his troops the support bonus, which will make them a little steadier. So here's a supply wagon. Alright, we're back up to 37 rounds. Let rip, boys. And we're just kind of running around the semicircle here to resupply all our skirmisher units. These guys have taken 2 losses. They're shooting at the artillery. Kind of hard to hit them from this distance. So how are our guns doing? Alright, we've got 10 points. Finally, our guns have starting to find range on this unit. So fierce firefight over here. We've taken 14 losses. We've inflicted 20. So again, the Austrians do have some skirmisher units out there, so they're much more deadly than just line units in a firefight with our skirmishers. These guys are doing pretty good. They've taken 5 losses. They've inflicted 32. So overall for this brigade, we've inflicted 100-something losses. We've only taken about 20. We're doing okay. Doing okay. And we still hold Souffelweyersheim. So, all right, we're just about done with our little supply wagon run around the salient here, resupplying all our units. And I'm watching these guys fatigue too. Skirmishers, when they're TC'd, they'll pretty much ignore the morale system, meaning they won't retreat until they rout. So what you really got to watch is their fatigue. You know, when it gets to the point where they're too low, they're shooting really slow. They shoot a lot slower when their fatigue is down. So when it gets to that point where they're really, really tired, what I'll do is I'll just start recalling them and sending out more skirmisher units from some of those line units I have behind the salient, just kind of refresh the skirmisher line. But they're winded right now. They're not exhausted. They're still okay. The morale is still good. But we are tangling with some Austrian and Wurttemberg skirmisher units. So again, when they put out skirmisher units, it's a much more even firefight. You can see we've taken 12 losses on this unit already, just since those Wurttemberg skirmishers came out. It's much more of an even firefight. So all right, we are done with our supply wagon run. So before I send them over, I just want to see how these guys are doing. So they got 29 rounds, 33 rounds. So all right, these guys are doing okay. They're not anywhere close to being out of ammo, and I think they're going to repulse these Austrians before they really have a chance to get low on ammo. So we're going to send the supply wagon back towards the left salient. And I just always double quick supply wagons. There's no reason not to. They don't have fatigue. They can just double quick all day long. So wow, these skirmisher units are doing great against this Wurttemberg line unit. You know, it really pays to have skirmisher units out in front because it really screens your line units, and that Wurttemberg unit should kick out a few, 2 of them at least, to help mitigate some of the damage they're taking from these skirmisher units. All right, so we're kicking out another skirmisher unit here, and we're going to put them on the extreme left so that we can start peppering that Wurttemberg unit that's in the peninsula there and kind of hit them in the rear. So this lone Austrian battalion is still hanging in there. Our skirmishers are really doing a number on them, though. They haven't gotten hit at all. They're in the woods. They're skirmisher units. They just have everything going for them. I mean, skirmishers against line units, they'll always win in a firefight. Always, 100% of the time. But you put them in the woods, and they become godlike. In terms of the amount of casualties they'll inflict versus the amount of casualties they'll take. You know, in a firefight like this, this is just what they were made for. So our little skirmisher unit going to the extreme left, they took 2 losses on the approach, but now that they're deployed and in position, all right, so some of these guys are getting tired now. So when they start to get tired, that's kind of around the time you want to start to maybe think about cycling in some fresh skirmisher units. Their morale is still good. They're still high. They're not in danger of routing. But you don't want to get them too exhausted, because then they'll just break and rout. So we're going to do a quick supply wagon run on the left salient now. They've been shooting for a while now. So we're at 2,000 points. We need 3,000 for a major victory. We're doing pretty good. We've inflicted 630 casualties. We've taken about 125. So this is an excellent defense we've set up here. So these guys are starting to get there, about 19 rounds. They're still doing okay. They've taken about 20 losses. They've inflicted 28. All right, so as you can see, I've recalled this skirmisher unit that was in the most forward position. They were tired. It's time to kick out a new one and replace them. They've been there since the beginning. They were the skirmisher unit that had to eat a little canister fire at the beginning. You know, they've done their job. So let's recall them. They can rest, and we'll kick out a fresh skirmisher unit to take their place. As you can see, we've gotten an extra 60 men or so now back in this battalion from the skirmish units that have been recalled. So here we go. We'll place them right in the woods here, kind of right where that other unit was. They've taken 3 losses on the approach, 4 losses now. You know, men are going to drop as you're moving them into position. But once they get set here and start firing, they should be able to start pulling ahead. So, our Wurttemberg troops, just as my guns were starting to get range on them, they've decided to withdraw. They're not routed or anything, or even retreating. They just chose to pull back. So let's continue our little supply wagon run here and refill our skirmish units, who are starting to get low. Some of us are down to 6 or 7 rounds. These guys are down to 16 rounds. They're starting to get winded too. It's a lot different when you have the enemy shooting back at you. So as you can see, we took 5 losses as we were getting into position, but we're starting to pick them back up now as we unlimber. These guys are starting to get pooped too. You know, they're fatigued. They're not quite tired yet, but they're getting there. They're getting there. Got to keep an eye on that. So, all right, our guns have picked up 32 points. Not bad. And these guys have been refilled. They're also tired now. And we will continue to resupply our skirmisher units here. So our guns have picked up a few more points now. Man, it's a shame I don't have control of that artillery reserve back on the hill behind the town. What a difference that would make. So, all right, these guys have evened things back up now. So there's really no reason to have these guys in skirmish formation any longer. There's nothing on our extreme right. So what I'm going to do is actually pull them back and put them back in line formation, because this is the unit that we split off the majority of our skirmishers from at the beginning. So as these skirmisher units become more and more tired, I'm going to want to recall them and cycle in fresh skirmisher units. So they're all going to get recalled to that unit. So we might as well just put them in line and let them regroup. So we're recalling one of these tired skirmisher units. We're going to kick out a fresh one right from this battalion back here, and just kind of put them right where they were along the riverbank here. And just making sure we still have that stone bridge objective. I don't see why we wouldn't, but always take a look now and again just to make sure. And last but not least, we will do a run behind the caissons and resupply the guns. So we're 2,300 points, need about 700 more to clinch a major victory. So we'll just continue holding these objectives and letting our skirmisher units do what they can. And I'm going to make a quick fridge run, guys. I will be right back. What's up, guys? I'm back, and it looks like the 2nd Battalion has withdrawn from the riverbank. Boy, we ended up really setting up a long skirmisher line over here. So now we have refreshed our forward skirmishers, so we have fresh skirmisher units in front now. As you can see, the Wurttemberg skirmishers are out there in force as well. So, yep, pretty much an even firefight when that happens. You know, that's the difference. That's why it pays to put skirmisher units in front of line units, because here, this skirmisher unit is just firing at a line unit, and it shows the score is very lopsided. They've inflicted many more casualties than they've taken. But over here with this unit, it's much more even because we're tangling with skirmisher units. And these guys are weary. They are really pooped. So, yeah, time to get them out of there as well. Kick out another fresh skirmisher unit to take their place. There they go. We'll TC them and move them right where that other skirmisher unit was. Get a fresh unit out there. And another weary run. But in this case, we can just recall them and just shift this leftmost skirmisher unit over, because the Wurttemberg unit they were firing on has withdrawn. So we don't actually need to kick out a fresh skirmisher unit. We have one over here, and we can just shift them over, as that peninsula is now pretty much uncontested. So our tired little boys are returning to their unit, and our other unit is shifting over here to take up their position. And once again, we'll go back on the left here and see how things are going. So, all right, this unit is starting to pull ahead now as it's dealing with a line unit. The Austrian skirmishers have pulled back a little bit, and you know, that's kind of the opposite of what you want. You want the skirmisher units in front of the line units, not behind them. They don't do any good behind them. The idea is that you put them in front of the line units so they screen them. They stop the line units from taking excessive losses. You don't want to put line units against skirmisher units in a firefight. The only time you ever want to use line units against skirmishers if you're gonna go into assault column and actually charge them, or just walk through them and get them out of there. But you don't want to stand there in a protracted firefight with just a line unit against enemy skirmisher units, because that'll just always, 100% of the time, that will go against you. You know, if you're going to do that, kick out your own skirmisher units in front of you to screen you, and then, you know, you'll be adding your fire to it, but you won't be taking excessive losses. You know, here where we're tangling with skirmisher units, you can see our skirmisher unit has lost almost as many men as they've killed. It's a much more even situation. And I forgot about my supply wagon run here. Let's just walk by the caissons and we will refill them. If you watch the count here, it'll go down as it passes every caisson. And 2,600 something points, so we need about 350 more points to clinch a major victory. And now our skirmisher units on the left here are starting to get fatigued as well, so soon we're going to have to start cycling fresh units into this salient as well. So, all right, these guys have pulled ahead a little bit. These guys are just chilling. And again, a very even firefight. You can see the difference whenever the skirmish units are facing just line units and when they're facing enemy skirmisher units. It's much different. You know, it's not that the AI doesn't use skirmisher units. It's just not going to use them like I do. It's not going to cover every inch, every square foot of their front with them like I do. You know, it uses its line units too. You know, and when it runs into situations where it just has its line units tangling with my skirmisher units, that's where it's really getting the worst of it. In the spots where they have skirmisher units deployed, that's mostly an even firefight. You know, they'll get ahead a little, they'll go down a little, but it's more or less even. Which is why when I get my line units involved in a firefight, it's behind skirmisher units, so that they're adding their massed fire to the equation, but they're not taking the losses that they would if they weren't screened by the skirmish units. I know I talk about skirmish units so much in this game, but they're just so freaking good. So another Austrian battalion is withdrawing. Again, I don't think they're routed. They're just pulling back. I certainly can't fault them for bravery. I don't think we've actually routed any of these units yet. we did in the last time we played this video, this scenario. In the first time I looked at this, we did rout a few units, but you know what? If I couldn't shoot back, I'd run too. So here we go. Now the Austrians are moving their skirmisher units to the front. Much smarter move. It'll have an immediate effect because their line battalions will be screened, and they'll start scoring points with their skirmisher units. And they'll stop taking excessive losses in their line units because they'll be screened by the skirmisher. And you can see they're kicking out even more over here. Now, I picked a bad time to do this because they were just deploying some more skirmish units, but these guys are getting really tired now. So I'm starting to recall a lot of my really tired skirmisher units and kicking out fresh ones. Now, I'm lucky here in the fact that there's a river between us. So, you know, I have the time to rush these new fresh skirmisher units over here. But if that river wasn't here, that would have been a bad move to do it at that particular time when the Austrians were kicking out their own skirmisher units. But thankfully saved by the river, because it takes so long to cross that I would have gotten these skirmisher units here with plenty of time. So what I'm going to do is recombine this battalion and move them back here and start pulling back these really tired skirmish units and kicking out fresh ones from this line unit. And we'll let this one recover its fatigue. So the skirmisher unit here was initially wanting to face these guys, but these guys are pulling back now. So they're going to spin to face the skirmisher units that I'm sending into their front. And we're sending out another fresh unit to take up this position to face these skirmisher units here. Nope, wrong click, wrong unit. I didn't want to move these guys over. They're good where they are. Yeah. Get back where you belong, fellas. And this unit here, we're going to move over here. So we're going to move this line unit a little further forward now, just so we can deploy skirmisher units and get them into their positions faster. And we're going to bring up that battalion that we're recalling skirmisher units from, and just bring them a little closer so that when we recall the units, we can get them back to their unit faster. So, alright, these guys are exhausted. They're pooped. Let's pull them back as well. We'll kick out another fresh unit to take their place. And now that we've moved the line unit forward, they have a short run to get into position. And our tired boys can go back to their line battalion behind the lines and rest up. They did a good job. And again, doing the same thing for our rightmost unit, recalling them, sending out a fresh unit to take their place. Not much going on the right side of this now, but might as well take the opportunity to put some fresh skirmishers out there. So now the Austrians really have it set up right. Now they have their skirmish units out front and their battalions behind it. See how these line battalions are screened by their skirmishers? That's what you want to do in a situation where you're tangling with skirmisher units, because it'll be a much more even firefight. So all looks quiet along the extreme right. And we got our supply wagon out here to make yet another supply wagon run around the salient here. However, a lot of these skirmisher units are pretty fresh because we just kicked them out, so they're probably pretty good on ammo. But we also just did the same thing over here, so these units are all pretty fresh too. So these guys have taken 4 losses and haven't inflicted any. This is what I'm talking about. Much more even fight. Whereas over here, it's just a line unit they're facing, and the skirmisher units have kind of free run here. So, you know, even if the AI didn't make it across the river, if they had done more of that, more of screening their line units with skirmisher units, it would have made a much bigger difference as far as keeping the firefight even all along the line. Instead of there were just a lot of spots where they were just using their line units and we were really able to pull ahead on points. As you can see, we've only taken less than 200 casualties, but we've inflicted close to 900. That's because just in a lot of spots, the Austrians and the Wurttembergs, they just didn't screen their units with skirmishers. So we have passed 3,000 points. We have clinched enough points for a major victory. About 10 minutes left in the scenario. We just need to hang on and keep doing what we're doing here. And that'll wrap this up. So I see one of those battalions that withdrew starting to move. One of those Austrian battalions. I wonder what's going on with them. So this unit is moving forward as well. It looks like these 2 units are actually part of this brigade over here, and it looks like they're forming up for something. We'll have to see what happens. So I'm pulling this unit back a little bit just in case these units are moving to attack my extreme right. If I need to, I can kick out more skirmisher units to screen that right side. We'll have to see. I'm not doing it yet. I want to see what these units are doing first. Our guns have picked up a couple of more points, but they were really targeting that Wurttemberg unit that was in the peninsula area. So we've taken 5 losses from the battalion as we've moved out to the extreme left here. But yeah, much more even fight now that the Austrians have a lot of skirmishers out in front of these lines. We've taken 7 casualties, we've inflicted 3. So the Austrians have 2 skirmisher units out there, so they're kind of getting the better of this unit. These guys are doing great. A lot of dead Austrians on the ground. Heaps of dead bodies out there. These guys are doing pretty good now. They've taken 10. They've inflicted 10 casualties. They've taken 2. And we'll continue circling our supply wagon around. These guys are resupplied. These guys really haven't gone through their ammo too much. No, I did it again. I clicked on the wrong unit. I want the supply wagon. So it looks like these 2 battalions are rejoining their brigade. They have rested quite a bit. Their fatigue and morale have probably recovered a lot. Maybe they're thinking about making an all-out attack on our extreme right. I'm not going to reinforce that position, though. There's only a couple of minutes left in the scenario. I don't think they'd be able to make it across the river in that time. So yeah, bloody little fight here with the Austrian skirmishers directly opposite us. These guys are engaged, but they're shooting at targets that are pretty far away from them, so I'm not surprised they haven't done much. So these two units have almost rejoined their brigade here. Now we have a very long, thin skirmisher line set up over here. So we'll have to see what this Austrian brigade commander decides he's going to do here. He doesn't have much time. There's only about 6 minutes, 5.5 minutes left in the scenario. We'll just send the supply wagon over. These are pretty fresh skirmisher units, though. I think they're still pretty good on ammo. We just saw an Austrian skirmisher drop. So we're still not getting the better of the situation over here. The Austrians are ahead by 4 points. But, yeah, that's what I said. Skirmisher units are more even firefight. And here they have 2 or 3 skirmisher units deployed opposite us here, so it's no wonder we're not getting the best of it. These guys are just kind of chilling. Maybe I can move them a little closer here. Get them engaged. Here comes our supply wagon. And the guns have not picked up any more points. Again, they were mostly getting points from that Wurttemberg battalion that was in the peninsula, and they've since withdrawn. I could probably move them somewhere where they'd be a little more effective, but, you know, with 4 minutes left in the scenario, would they'd take that long just to move wherever I was going to move them? So again, they've shifted position over here, but again, they have their skirmishers in front of their line battalions. So that's what you want to do. That's how you protect your line battalions. Now these guys are starting to get pooped. But they'll hang in there until the end of the scenario. I'm not going to shift. I'm not going to replace any more skirmisher units. So look at this, the entire brigade is advancing. They have deployed some skirmishers. Not enough of them, but they've deployed some. So I'm going to send the battalion way out on the right here because it looks like they are continuing to move out on the right. No, I can't split off any more skirmishers because there's only 110 men left. But I'm going to change where I'm going to place them because you can see their waypoint is taking them through the river, and that will really slow down their movement. So we'll start off by moving them further back and then advance them. So some of these Austrians are advancing forward here behind this skirmisher unit. Our skirmishers have engaged them. And looks like all their units are starting to move forward a little bit. But this would have been a nice move at the beginning, but now you've only got 3 minutes. So I'm not really worried about it. Just finish circling our supply wagon. Those guys are pretty full. These guys are down to 23, so we might as well resupply them. And the Austrians have kicked off another skirmisher group over here, so this will be a pretty even firefight, but yeah, there's only a couple of minutes left, so nothing we need to worry about anymore. And we can just get the supply wagon out of there at this point. So as you can see, our line battalion is heading out to the far right, and we'll deploy them in skirmish formation. You can see our skirmishers tangling away, and they're doing great because they're just tangling with line units that don't know what happened to that Austrian skirmisher unit. They might have recalled them. And we'll place them in skirmish formation. However, it's all over. Alright, so there we go, guys. We got our major victory. We scored 3,458 points. We inflicted we took 294 casualties, but we inflicted nearly 1,000. So definitely an overwhelming victory for the French here. It was a great defense. The skirmishers proved their weight in gold. Like I said, this is just dream terrain for a defense like this, where we have a very wide field of fire because we have salients that let us create a semicircle, which give us good interior lines. And the riverbank was basically lined on our side, kind of all the way around with heavy wood, so we get that big defensive terrain bonus. And it's just kind of a perfect situation for this type of defense. Artillery didn't play too big a role because it's not really that type of scenario. It's mostly going to be won by skirmishers. If I had more batteries than just this one, I might have, moved them a little closer. But skirmishes were always going to be what won this engagement for us, and they did an excellent job. The Austrian game plan was, a little timid. I think they could have been more aggressive in terms of trying to actually get across the river. They would have taken more losses at the beginning in doing that, but they might have at least pushed our line back and forced us to withdraw and reset up and maybe not be on as favorable position. It's not that this was a bad strategy, but they needed to use a lot more skirmisher units. If they were going to sit there and try and pick at us in a firefight, the thing they should have done was just bring a lot of skirmisher units to bear, screen their line units, and really make it so that our skirmishers would have taken a lot more losses a lot quicker. And if that had happened, some of our units may have routed. We would have had to cycle in fresh skirmisher units much quicker, and then our rear line units wouldn't have been as strong. So it's not that this strategy of trying to shoot it out with us along the river couldn't have worked for them, but they just needed to use a lot more skirmisher units. That would have been the whole key. It's just they had a lot more troops. They can afford to cycle in fresh skirmisher units constantly, and we couldn't have. We could have done it maybe 2 or 3 times before we started just using up what we had. So that would have been kind of the ticket, is to just really do what we did and flood their side of the riverbank with skirmisher units as well. Their side is just as tree lined as ours is. But by getting to pick away at their line units in a lot of spots, that really led us to pull ahead on points and to inflict a lot more casualties than we took. But that's kind of always been the case with the AI. It's never used skirmishers to the degree that I do. It doesn't realize how strong they are the way I do. Not actually too different an outcome from what we saw in the first time I looked at this scenario, other than the fact that the Austrians actually were able to shoot back and inflict some losses at us, but they still weren't really that aggressive. They did try and attack the blown bridge area that they didn't try to attack in the first time I played it. But our skirmishers easily repulsed them. They didn't deploy any skirmishers at all. They just tried to shoot it out with us in line. That will never work, ever, ever. Skirmisher units against line units in a firefight, always the skirmisher units will win, always. All right, guys, so that's it for this video, and I think the next one will be the French core scenario, which is kind of this battle kind of after the Austrians have kind of pushed across the river. And I haven't really, I've looked at it, but I haven't played it all the way through yet. So again, I'll be playing it kind of the first time through for the next video. So that's it for now, guys. Hope you enjoy the video, and we'll see you next time. Take it easy.